Hey guys, this is Chris, and welcome to Ready to Die Fighting. And this is a series on firearms for beginners. And on this super fun episode, I want to talk a little bit about when I first started, like the process I went through. So once I made the decision to buy a gun, I didn't run out and just go out and buy a gun. I'm one of those type of people who like to research everything before I buy it. Part of that, I think, is just my background and my profession. I'm a designer, and so in developing new things, we do research on things and really understand all the features and benefits and everything else. Before I start designing a new thing, you have to understand what's already there and the pros and cons. And so I kind of go through that with almost any purchase, almost any, especially if it's over a certain amount of money or something that I plan on using for a long time. And at the time, I only planned on buying one gun because it was more of a social experiment, I guess. Anything else, I wanted to figure out, I wanted to experience what it's like what's required, how hard is it, how easy is it, how long does it take, what's this process like. And so when I first started, I had never fired a handgun, but I wanted a pistol. I was like, I don't want a big rifle or anything. I just want like a little handgun that I can potentially carry. I probably won't, but potentially could. And I just need one, and that's it. And so I started doing research on, I was like, I don't know what kind to get. I didn't even know the brands. Like, I don't even know what the options are, or the different types. And as I was doing research, I pretty quickly became overwhelmed. Apparently, there are striker-fired pistols. There are single-action pistols. There are single-action, double-action pistols. There are revolvers. There are, all these different things. And it's like, oh, boy. And then there's 9mm. There's 45. There's... What does that even mean? And then add in all the different companies, the different brands and sizes, single stack, double stack. Very quickly, I'm like, I don't know what. And there were so many. I don't even know where to begin. What is any of this? And so I spent a lot of time on the internet, just going to different websites, watching videos on YouTube, Googling the heck out of this stuff. And then I started going to gun shops and just going in there and talking to the employees, which some places was very awkward. I don't know if it's because they could tell that I was a little uncomfortable or new and didn't know what I was doing. I don't know if it was because of my gender. I don't know, but they kind of seemed to, in some places, talk to me like I was stupid, basically. And they weren't all that helpful a lot of times. And that was kind of annoying. So I started to not like going because my experience wasn't really great. But I did it anyway.
Mommy,
Yeah?
can I have this piece of gum?
Sure. But I started doing it anyway because it just makes sense to me. I was like, let me get my hands on a couple. Let me just talk to these guys and see if I can get them to explain this stuff to me a little bit. And it was a little iffy. But I was able to get enough information, piecing it together in conjunction with the research I was doing online to kind of sort of figure out what some of these things were. And then my next step was to try to, after I was figuring this out, so I learned that my main focus was I wanted to be as safe as possible. I wanted to prevent negligent discharges as much as possible. And I learned that there are external safeties, and then there's a lot of firearms that have really no safety at all. They'll put the safety on the trigger, which in my opinion, I don't see how that's a safety, but in theory. Or they have a grip safety, where you basically Yeah, it's on the grip or the handle, however you want to call it. So you have to actually have your hand closed around the pistol in order for it to shoot. Um, and so there's things like that. But then there's also like on my Smith & Wesson Shield, it has a little switch that you go like that, and that turns the gun effectively off or on, so it can't fire. And that made a lot of sense to me. However, there are a ton of people who very strongly feel that having a manual safety is a mistake. I'm not going to say that they're wrong, but it was not right for me. My thought process on a safety is that it does make you safer. A lot of negligent discharges happen as the gun is being transferred someplace else. Either put into a holster or put into a box, or handing it to someone, or fumbling and dropping it and trying to pick it up or trying to catch it. That's where a lot of that stuff happens. And I use my safety, this is a little bit of a derailment, but I use it in such a way that when it's being moved, the safety's on. Once it's in my holster and safe, at that point, the safety can come off. It pretty much eliminates the possibility of a negligent discharge. I shouldn't say it completely eliminates. There's always a possibility. You still have to be responsible and safe, but it definitely minimizes it. So that's why I have it, and additionally I have a kid, and just add that extra barrier. If it's not on me in a holster, the safety is on. That just seems smart to me. That works for me. I'm happy with that decision. But there's a lot of debate on it, and it can be confusing. And if you listen to those videos, everybody talks about why you shouldn't have one. And nobody says, I shouldn't say nobody, but I haven't really heard talk about why you should have one, what the benefits are. And that's just something I figured out kind of on my own. It worked out. And where I was really happy that I had it is, and maybe this was a bad practice of mine, but I remember one time in particular, I had the gun in my backpack, and it was in a holster, like a leather holster. But I guess maybe it didn't fit all that well, and it was in there with some other things, and the safety was on. And, just jostling the backpack around. I wasn't walking around with it, but I was going on a little road trip, and so it had been thrown in and out of the car, moved around a lot, and all that. And somewhere in there, it came not completely out of the holster, but enough where the trigger was exposed. And I reached in my backpack to get something else out of there, and I realized that just as I was rummaging around in there looking for, I don't know, whatever it was, a pen, who knows, that the gun was pretty much out of the holster. The trigger was exposed, and had I not been paying attention, something bad could have happened, and that kind of scared me. Fortunately, I did have a manual safety on, and so that possibility was minimized at least. Now I no longer just throw my gun in a backpack, even if it is in the holster, because I learned that was a bad idea. But that's one of those things where you learn as you go, apparently, without someone teaching me. Oh, there's the alarm that says that we got some kind of storm going. Yeah, so I eventually started kind of piecing together what these different things meant, and this process took me, I would say, probably a month or so for me to figure out all this terminology, figure out maybe what I thought I wanted, researching the different brands, like where they were manufactured, where their history was, like which ones were reliable, reading a bunch of reviews. Also, I started watching, so I kind of narrowed it down to the PX4 Storm, made by Beretta. And I liked that one because it had the manual safety. It was a double stack, meaning basically it has a higher capacity. It's a full-size gun. So that's another thing. There's like full size and compact and subcompact and micros, and there's just a lot of stuff. And so I was doing this mostly online, and then I'd go to the store and look at them. and talk to the guys who work there. And so went through this process over several different guns, and I settled on the Beretta, although I never shot it. I never shot any gun. So I'm like, you know what, I gotta go and shoot this thing before I buy it, right? That's a very good product. I highly, highly recommend. Go to a gun shop, rent a few, try them out before you purchase. Or go with a friend who has a few, try them out before you purchase. But one way or another, try some out before you purchase. That's the main takeaway here. I guess the main takeaway is do some research first. So then I was like, all right, I got to go to a range that rents them, and I got to shoot it. But I don't know how to shoot. I don't even know the beginnings. So then I had to, again, use YouTube and some forums and other online just websites and whatnot. Well, that's loud. To learn how to shoot. You know, how do you hold one safely? Which eye do you use? Do you keep both eyes open? Do you close one eye? All that stuff. And so I figured that out. I learned the rules on proper safe gun handling, and I just studied that over and over again. And then I found out, I was like, you know what, it'd be really good if I could somehow practice this first. And I think I bought, sorry, I didn't even know how to create a sight picture. And so I had to figure that out. I was like, I don't even know how to aim it. And so I just trying all these things, and I was like, you know what, I really like this PX4 Storm. I think that's what I'm going to buy. Maybe I should find a way to practice this safely. And so I looked around and I found out that airsoft guns, they make a lot of replicas of real guns that are very, very, very similar in their feel. Now, they're plastic. They don't have recoil or anything like that. But as far as the manipulations of removing the magazine, as far as racking it, and just the basic geometry, the sights, they're there, and it's the same. So I found a replica of the PX4 Storm as an airsoft gun, and I bought that. And with that, I was able to practice properly holding the gun. I was able to practice trigger discipline. I was able to practice getting a sight picture over and over again, and it's comfortable and it's safe. It's just an airsoft gun. I didn't even have to put the little BBs in it. I didn't buy it to actually shoot. I wanted to practice that sight picture, get that just right, and the trigger discipline, and removing the magazine, and putting it back in, and racking the slide. I wanted to get all that stuff so it was at least familiar, so that when I went and shot the real thing, I wouldn't be completely clueless. So I did that for a couple weeks, just practicing with that over and over again until I felt pretty comfortable, pretty confident, reading those rules over and over again about proper range etiquette and proper safe handling. Don't point it at anyone. Keep your finger off the trigger. Make sure you're aware of what's behind you. All that stuff. And then I finally went to the range, and that was funny because I still, despite all that, I was still super nervous, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was scared, and I was honestly very, very scared. That I was going to do something wrong, that I was going to shoot my eye out, I don't know. And the range, what do you call it? Range attendant, I guess. I forget the guy who was there kind of monitoring. I think he picked up on my nervousness. And I think I asked him for help too. Yeah, I did. And that was the thing. I was like, this isn't the time to be arrogant and try to be a know-it-all or too proud to ask for help. I told I rented the PX4 Storm, bought some ammo from them, some overpriced ammo from them, and went back there, and I was just kind of stood there for a minute, and I flagged the guy down, or maybe he was walking by, and I was like, hey, I have never fired a gun before, which wasn't completely true. I had fired a rifle maybe twice when I was significantly younger. And I didn't remember it, and it wasn't like it was really, I think I pulled the trigger twice, literally. Um, and I was like, I've never fired a gun before. I don't know what I'm doing. I want to be safe. Can you help me out? And he did. He was super cool. He was an older man, very nice, very friendly. And he basically stood there with me. And even though I knew what I was supposed to do by watching these videos and practicing with that replica, I still kind of just wanted that assurance that I wasn't doing anything dangerous. And, you know, he kind of oversaw what I was doing. He made some corrections here or there, showed me how to, you know, move the target back and forth because, you know, you don't know what you're doing. And he made that experience so much better than it probably would have been. I just felt just a little bit safer just knowing somebody was standing there to say, don't do that, you know, if I was screwing up. And it turns out I was a pretty decent shot. I didn't do wonderful. I wasn't going to just blow anyone away with my sharpshooting, but I didn't do too bad. And I didn't die. I didn't do anything dangerous. And I was like, okay. And I was like, all right. And he, you know, talking to me, and he actually kind of discouraged me away from that gun. That was the one I decided I wanted for a few reasons, and I'll get into that in a different video. But he kind of wanted to push me away from it, and I'm kind of glad he did. He's like, you know, try something else. He recommended the Walther, I think, CCP, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And he took the PX4 away, and he went back and got the Walther, handed me that, and that was a nice gun too. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is all. He's like, you know, let's try something else. Try I forgot what else, but I think he had me try a Glock. He had me try a Springfield, just a bunch of different ones. See, you know, I told him what I was doing. And despite trying them, all these different ones out, I found that I still liked the PX4 the most. It could be because that's the one I had already decided on, and that was one I was familiar with. I did like the Walther a lot, actually. I thought that was a really nice gun. I probably would not be disappointed if I bought that one. Although maybe I would. I've read some reviews on it where the reviews aren't as good as the PX4. So I've heard that there has been some problems with it. But at any rate, the fact that he basically made me try different ones, I felt more confident in my purchase. And like, even though I walked in with just the intent of trying that one, you know, you don't really know until you try more. And so I think I was just at the range for half an hour, and that was good. And I decided to go back. Like, I need to do this. I want to be sure. So I was like, I'm going to make sure this is the right thing for me, make sure I'm comfortable with it. And so I went back, I think, once a week for probably another month. So this is a 2-month process already. Just to make sure, and always renting the PX4, but then renting other ones as well to compare to it and to be sure that I was getting the right one. And every time I did it, I liked it every time I rented it. And it was my favorite, or my second favorite of the ones that I tried out. And then I finally was like, okay, I'm ready. And I went and bought one, registered as required with the police department here. And I did not have a CPL yet, and I didn't want to get one until I was more comfortable with the gun I had, because, you know, that just made sense to me. Like, I didn't want to go and try to get a license and not knowing how to shoot. I didn't have to. I mean, there was plenty of people when I did get my CPL. There were plenty of people in that class who had never fired a gun before, and that just didn't make sense to me. Like, why would I want a license to do something that I don't know how to do? That seems backwards, because I learned how to do it first and then get the license. I mean, up to you. It doesn't really matter. And so I still waited. I can't remember how long, probably a couple more months. And again, just going to the range over and over again. I didn't want to have that license until I was comfortable. I was like, I don't want to be licensed to carry this thing until I know that I can. And I know what I'm doing. And so that's what I did. And then when I got my CPL, when I went to the class, it was mostly just a lecture. It was a very long lecture. Most of it was not very interesting or helpful. I'm not sure. I really don't approve of, at least in Michigan, our CPL process. I'm not opposed to licensing people necessarily, but I feel like if you're going to license someone, make the license worth getting. Right now, it just feels like a cash grab to me. Uh, like I said, there were people in that classroom who had never held a gun in their hands, and they walked out with a license to carry one concealed. That makes no sense to me. You, you have to do more than that to drive a car. You have to do more than that if you're a licensed hairdresser, if you're a licensed anything. And so, if the decision is that you, in my opinion, and another getting a little derailment, it's like either license or don't. If you're going to require people to make a license, make it a license worth getting. Make it so that you have to be proficient and know these things, and it's like actual class, and like, yeah, when you have that license, like, yep, you are skilled and knowledgeable enough with a firearm that you can carry this. Or get rid of the license. Like, why bother? I didn't learn anything really. I learned about the laws, but just give me a flyer. I didn't need to sit in a 6-hour or 8-hour class, however long it was, to do that. Give me a little booklet, and when I sign up or whatever, and that's it. Be done with it. One or the other. I mean, just pick one. I don't even care which one. Pick one. But the way it is right now, it's a half-assed. At least, and this is Michigan, so maybe your state is different. But that's what that was. I just sit there in this classroom, and at the part of it, we did, I think, a half an hour on the range. I don't even know if it was that much, but they basically just gave everybody a gun, gave them a few rounds. Didn't even teach us how to load them up. I had to teach the people to the left and right of me how to load the magazine because they didn't know. Again, scary that these people are licensed. Not that it necessarily they're faulty. They probably assumed, like I did, that the licensing process would be more educational. But yeah, they didn't know how to load their magazines. They were as scared and as nervous as I was when I first had gone in 2 months prior. But by then, I think we did 20 rounds each or something like that. No, I think it was more than that. I can't remember how many times, but basically had everybody shoot, maybe 20 to 50 times. I don't think it even mattered if you hit the target or not. You just shoot it. And then we went back into the classroom and had a little bit more lecture about legal stuff. And that was it. And then afterwards, you have to go and pay another fee to get your fingerprints ran. And within, let's see, how long did it take? I want to say it's a month. I'm not even sure if it took that long. I got a little card in the mail and my license, and it's nice. It uses the same picture as your driver's license or your state ID, and it has on the back of it, just like as a quick reference, some of the basic stuff like where you're allowed to carry and where you're not, because that definitely is, sometimes that's hard to remember. And it's nice to just have that little reminder, like, can I carry in here? Because there are limitations to it. So that's nice. And, just keep that on me. And so by then, by the time I actually received my license, I had been researching and practicing with a firearm, either a real one or a toy one, for, I don't know, at that point, maybe 3 or 4 months. And by then, I was pretty comfortable. I still wasn't carrying. I didn't actually start carrying until fairly recently, in the last maybe 6 months or so. Not to say that I never carried, but I didn't feel it was necessary. Like I said, my initial goal was just to learn about this process. And once that was done, I kind of just put it aside and kept it as kind of like a bedside pistol. Is really all it was. But then after a while, my dad was always like, why don't you carry? I never had it on me. And sometimes, I'd be at a gas station at night or at ATM or walking around downtown. And I'm like, why aren't you carrying? Like, and so what I started learning is when I started to carry, it's like, oh, I need a holster. And then when I go camping, that was like the main time I wanted to have one with me. And I got this cheap nylon holster, and it didn't take long for me to realize that just a little $12 holster that is just floppy. It wasn't custom fit to the gun. That was no good. No surprises. That was just no good. So then I got a nicer leather one, and that worked better for carrying. But the issue was it was a full-size pistol, and trying to conceal that, I mean, it was making my pants fall down if I had it on. My pants clipped on. It was uncomfortable. It's just this big, bulky freaking gun. Even though it was very nice and I could shoot it well, it was too big to carry around. And then I started looking at, I was like, okay, well, maybe I do want to start carrying. And it might be nice to have two pistols anyway, like a bedside pistol that stays in the house, never leaves, and then maybe one that I even keep in the car or keep in my bug out bag, or that I actually carry on me. So I wanted a smaller gun. And that's when I started researching, although I didn't research nearly as long, the M&P Shield. But at that point, I knew what things were, and I had tried out a lot of different guns when I was buying the PX4, but I still tried out, I would say, maybe 5 different guns of a similar size to the Shield before settling on that one. And I really like that one. And now, since I've gotten that, I carry far more frequently. And then, like I said, in the last 6 months, I pretty much carry at all times now. So that's kind of the my experience. Also in there, I have picked up a couple of rifles and a shotgun in there as well. You know, in between. Just kind of focusing on the process of getting the license and learning how that all works. So, yeah, so it was actually a pretty fun journey. And so the purpose of this video is just to kind of give you a heads up. Like, if this is something that you want to do, like, that's kind of how it worked, at least in Michigan. That's an approach that I took. Doesn't mean you have to do it the exact same way that I did, but that's what I did. I'm looking at taking some more classes, like more tactical or like advanced type classes to, like, say, hitting moving targets and, you know, that sort of stuff, to learn a bit more. I'm well overdue for it. And at this point, hitting a piece of paper at the range has become pretty easy. I'm really comfortable with that, comfortable cleaning the gun, comfortable drawing and things like that. But it would be good to learn more. I'd really like to take a tactical shotgun class. I think that would be really cool and very useful, because shotgun I consider to be instead of the Beretta. The Beretta kind of just doesn't really have a real purpose anymore. For the home use, I'm really using the shotgun for home defense is the plan. And then the Shield is my carry, and the Beretta, you know, kind of like, I guess, a sidearm, I guess, type of deal. But, you know, figuring that stuff out, the role for each firearm, because I don't want to just have a bunch that don't have a purpose. I'm rambling now. So, like, subscribe, leave some comments. Hopefully this is helpful to people who are just starting this